Hey guys, welcome in another edition of the Stinking Truth Podcast alongside Mike Evans. I am Mark Schlerth. Mike, how are you, my friend?
I'm good. I'm wearing a hat for the first time ever.
First time in this
ever in the history of the podcast.
Maybe in the history of ever, because I can't believe you found one that fits that freaking melon of yours.
What a dick.
You do have a huge head, by the way.
Representing the Cuse, by the way.
Right.
Let's go, Coach Babers.
Yes. You do have a huge head.
I have a big head. I'm fine with that. It's not as big as it once was, but what's with the block party? Everywhere you go, it's a block party.
Yeah, I just took this out of the supply cabinet. I need a hat, because otherwise I look like this. So I had to find a hat. Block party. How you doing, man?
Lot going on. We finally saw a logjam on the running backs. Zeke Elliott and Dalvin Cook both signing one-year deals. Yeah. Cook with the Jets, Zeke with the Patriots. Good fits?
I think it's great fix. I think the first thing is it just goes to show you what the market is. And don't think it's going to change. Like signing a one-year deal, don't think that's going to change your market value. The running back market is the running back market, and until you put together a new collective bargaining agreement and fight for something different, that's just the way it's going to go for running backs. So the one-year deal, if you want to be a mercenary, good for you. But the bottom line, going forward, if you're one of these top-notch running backs, like you're going to get the deal you're going to get. You know, and if you can get $10, $12 million a year, then that's probably the going rate for the running back right now. Regardless if you put up 35% of the offense or whatever it is, like Saquon Barkley, that's the market. And so, that's just market economics.
Which running back makes the bigger impact with his team?
Oh, I think Dalvin Cook. Dalvin Cook's ability to catch the ball, Dalvin Cook's ability to be a home run hitter, with Aaron Rodgers taking some of that pressure off of the Jets, and then the Jets with the defense they have right now. Like, the Jets are legit contenders in my mind. Now, I know Aaron Rodgers didn't play in the preseason game number one, but they've got a legit chance. A lot of questions about the offensive line, but a lot of that comes with play calling. Like, you can eliminate a lot of the issues you have up front if you understand how to run the ball, if you understand how to run the play action, if you've got a quarterback who understands defense, which Aaron Rodgers, there's nobody that knows it better than him, and can get the ball out of his hand quickly. All those things, that's how you protect. That's how you take what is, on paper an average group and make them a really above average group, is the way your play caller orchestrates an offense. I say this to coaches all the time, like, give up 7 sacks in a game. I'm not going to say your O-line sucks. I'm going to say you suck as a play caller. You didn't take the pressure off those guys. Now, I understand, your defense rolls over and you give up, a big lead, 21 points. You got to throw it every time. I don't necessarily agree with you got to throw it every time, because you're not going to make it all back in one play. But I understand how that gets you out of balance, and that puts more stress on your offensive line. But the bottom line for me, most of the time, you give up 6-7 sacks in a game, you guys suck as a coaching staff.
Zeke in New England. Bill Belichick over the years has used a lot of running backs very effectively. How do you see Zeke's role with the Pats?
Without having their roster in front of me, Zeke is a tremendous player. Now, I know a lot of people say, hey, not a lot of tread left on the tires and took kind of a beating and stuff, but he's a physical runner. He's a downhill runner. One thing that like, when you look at Bill Belichick and you talk with Bill Belichick is a gap run coach. Like, he wants to be downhill. He doesn't like the wide zone stuff. What a lot of people base out of wide zone, all this West Coast, Mike Shanahan, Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay, you go down that, Matt LaFleur, Zach Taylor, like, all those guys want to base out of, hey, wide zone is what we're, our base. Now, we'll have a lot of variations within that, but we want to be on that wide zone, that path outside, right? Cut back lanes. And Bill Belichick has a philosophy: why would I want to go east and west to get north and south? I just want to go north and south, right? And that's kind of his. So he's more of a gap-related running kind of call coach. And Zeke is a good downhill guy, physical. He coming out of college when he was at where were you go? Ohio State. When he was coming out of Ohio State, and I studied him on tape before the draft, I was like, he's already one of the best blitz pickup guys in football. Like that dude knew how to eat up ground, get in the line of scrimmage, and just whoop, shorten your neck right there. And the reason you want to get in the line of scrimmage as a blitz pickup guy, as a back, okay, because this is why I'm. You and I were talking on our radio show, and I was talking about how one-on-ones are unrealistic drill, right? Mm-hmm. Because when you're doing one-on-ones in practice with an offensive and defensive lineman, you don't have everybody else playing at the same time. So there's no bodies. So it's you and that guy with infinite space on both sides of you. That doesn't happen in real life, right? You've got a center on one side, you got a tackle on the other side if you play guard, and there's not as much room to operate in there as a defensive lineman. So a lot of these pseudo defensive line wins, that's a sack. You heard that all the time. No, it's not, dumbass. Otherwise, you'd have 47 sacks in a season. You get 9 and you're like, woo, 9 sacks. Well, we almost got double digits. I hate defensive players. Anyhow, the bottom line with the back, the reason why you want to gain ground, Mike, you want to eat up that space. You want to come attack the defender before he can get going. But why? Because I want to get him in the line of scrimmage, so when I go into that hole, let's call it the B gap, the gap between guard and tackle, guess what? Not a lot of room. So if you make some dramatic move, you know what you're doing? Tripping over the feet of your guard and that defensive tackle, or your offensive tackle and that defensive end. Does that make sense? So gain ground, get in the line of scrimmage. Zeke was great at that. He was also really good catching the ball out of the backfield. So to me, he's a perfect downhill fit and a do-it-all guy that Bill Belichick can play on any down.
You mentioned a couple of veteran quarterbacks. We didn't see many veteran quarterbacks at all in the first week of preseason. We saw Patrick Mahomes.
Yeah.
And I think I speak for all of Chiefs Kingdom when he pulled the ball down and started running up the middle of the field, right, and eventually slid down. I can understand why everybody was holding their breath, heart in their mouth. Does that surprise you that in a league where increasingly starters don't play in the preseason, there's Mahomes out there for Andy Reid?
I think I saw more starters play in this preseason than I was expecting. There was a lot of I watched the Vikings take on Seattle, and the starting quarterbacks didn't play and all that stuff. But I think you're going to see more and more of it, especially as they keep eliminating practice time, keep eliminating the amount of time you can work on the field, keep eliminating the number of games you have in the preseason, because eventually we all think it's going to go to 18 games and it's going to go down to 2 preseason games, right? So I think you're seeing more veterans play, not a ton, but more veterans play in the preseason, because ultimately this whole notion of hey, let's use the first 3 games of the regular season as a kind of a pseudo preseason, an extension of preseason. And I think what teams are looking at right now with 17 games, you're like, man, we need a couple of breaks toward the end of the season. So if we can jump out when we're fresh at the beginning of the season and go, let's say, start 3-0, man, it gives us an opportunity to go, okay, let's measure where we are at the end of the season. Do we need to get a couple guys healthy? Can we play that way? Could play the long game, so to speak. So let's go early so we can make decisions late.
Well, I saw Sean Payton do an interview in which he said, hey, one of the things I learned when I was doing TV for a year was I recognize the importance of teams getting off to fast starts. And if you look at some of the surprise teams in the NFL a year ago, the Giants, Minnesota, teams like that, they got off to fast starts. So he feels that it's important that the Broncos get off to a fast start. He backed it up. He had Russell Wilson in the first-string offense out there for 4 drives.
Right.
4 drives.
Yeah, punishment. And then that's part of the change of the culture as well, because there were breakdowns up front on the offensive line. There were things that Russ Wilson didn't do very well. There was receivers that didn't necessarily run the crispest or the best of routes. And so all these little things, and it's never every level. It's not like the O-line sucked, the receivers sucked, and the quarterback sucked all at the same time, and the running backs, right? It's, hey, the running back didn't run the right protection or whatever. I was an offensive line, left tackle got beat. He took a bad set. Oh, all of a sudden, my wide receiver quit on a zero blitz on a route where the quarterback is throwing it for you to get a chance at it, and you don't get a chance at it because you just stop running your route because somebody cut you off. Like that's changing the culture, and part of that for Sean Payton was punishment. I'm going to punish you guys. You don't put together a couple of drives, or you don't put together at least one good drive, guess what? We're going to keep going out there until you guys actually rectify this and put a good drive together, and they did. They scored at the end of at the end of that first half.
So Peyton's new, right? This is his first year. He's more about the process right now.
Yeah.
Boy, was Broncos country burned by Russell Wilson last year? You want to talk about, hey, we're not going to get fooled again? That is a fan base that is, they are down on Russell Wilson.
Right.
I mean, they down.
Russell Wilson's been in the league for 12 years. He shouldn't have to go through a process. He shouldn't have. Dude, it's a new offense.
Well,
it's a new system. Well, a couple of things that I saw. Russ wanted to be. He wants to transition. We've heard this from a lot of different people, and not Russ, but just people who have followed Russ's career. He wants to transition. He wants to become the next kind of quote-unquote Drew Brees, a shorter quarterback that really can operate from the pocket. One of the things I see, and it's uncomfortable for us, he's always had this propensity to scramble, to twirl out and scramble out the outside of the pocket. Well, when you're young and you're athletic and you're fast, you can make that happen occasionally, but still you're going to put yourself in harm's way with the defensive ends and the speed and the edge presence that you have on a defense right now. And so those things are always looked at and you go, to me, when you spin out and you try to scramble outside the edge, when you do get sacked, and you will get sacked, it's a -9, -10. Now you're in second down and 20. If you work and manipulate the pocket and you're climbing, you're shifting through there, all of a sudden you get sacked, Tom Brady, hey, it's a 3-yard loss. Those guys that can operate from the pocket. So one of the things you can see, you've seen it in practice, and we saw in the game, he's not comfortable with it, but he really worked on climbing, getting back up in the pocket and trying to deliver the football from inside the pocket. That's going to be it's something he hasn't done. And I'll tell you, studying so many Seattle tapes, I guarantee you 35% of the sacks that were given up over the course of his time in Seattle were his fault. So, you can sit there and say, well, the offensive line wasn't good. Well, no, Russ is taking these sacks, so they're trying to eliminate that. That's a work in progress. That's going to take time.
Lastly, you are an accomplished actor.
Yes. I'm glad you noticed.
And so you know the inner workings of Hollywood.
Oh, I do. Boy, do I.
Boy, can you tell stories.
Yes.
What do you think about this Michael Oher story? The Blind Side, right?
Yeah.
So it seemed like when that movie came out, wow, what a great story. Too good to be true. Well, according to Michael Oher, it wasn't true. As he's suing his family, saying that he was scammed out of millions of dollars, that he was portrayed unfairly, that he was never adopted, that they took him into conservatorship. Good. There you go.
Yeah.
And that they made millions, but he made nothing. This is getting ugly.
Yeah, that is ugly. And, there's I don't know, man. I don't know what to make. I mean,
He never liked the movie. That was right from the get-go, that he never really liked the movie.
But was he not complicit?
But this is coming to a whole other level.
Not complicit in the making of it? Was he not complicit in throughout the process? Was he part of that? Maybe he's just realizing now, he was part of it, and now he's realizing, wait a minute, I didn't really see any money from this, and you guys are living high on the hog.
Right.
So that'll make you, raise an eyebrow. As a matter of fact, speaking of my acting career, I did remember that show, the Makeover Show? Where they the house makeover, whatever, the home makeover, whatever it was, with the spastic guy that had Ty or whatever. Ty was awesome. I did that show with the Tuohys.
Oh, did you?
Yeah, we redid that show, so maybe I'm in trouble.
Maybe you were shorted.
Maybe the Tuohys owe me money.
Yeah, there you go. You might want to get your lawyer to work on that.
Hey, Tuohys, you're on my list. No, that's a terrible story.
Yeah.
I'm making light of it, but I'm making light of me, but that's a horrible story. Anyhow.
Just further proof that when they seem too good to be true.
Probably too good to be true. Yeah. Hey, for everybody involved in the Stink Truth podcast, a little short one today. We'll be back with you guys on Thursday and break it all down as we get ready for week 2 of the preseason. Very exciting stuff. For Mike, I am Mark. We'll be with you guys later on this week and next week. We'll be with you for the foreseeable future. How about that?
Say goodbye, Mark.
Goodbye, Mark.